baby. Okay, we're good. What up, everybody? Your boy's back from vacay, hanging out with everybody else. Good morning, DCTV. It is August 25th at 9:05 a.m. because we're having internet issues. We're gonna get those sorted out by the end of the week. Don't you worry. But what's up, guys? What's going on? We got Peter in the house. We got Greg Tamp and my boy Jaime.
Welcome back. We missed you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I have sunburn like a motherfucker.
You
Yeah.
say this
Don't
tan
tap-
is looking nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Outside of this shirt is fine. Inside, underneath of this shirt is not.
He looks like a striped bear.
I tried to reapply and then realized it was too late to reapply, and paid the price.
Good morning, everyone. We got Boz Don CEO,
Yeah,
Peter Bot in live.
Peter Bot in the house.
in the flesh.
What's up? What's up?
Oh, hey, Donna. She's one of my folks.
Welcome, Donna.
Good to see you.
Welcome.
So is Darren. Good morning. Good morning. And we got David. Oop, as soon as it pulled up, there it goes. We got David. Good morning, my man. We got Richard, one of my folks as well, over in the Chaos community. Man, it has been weird being disconnected for 3 days. Really weird. Feels like it's been 3 months.
We love the boat.
Yeah, it was a good time. If you guys didn't know, I was out in Puerto Rico with one of my boys, and it was a really good time. It was a really good time just to spend some time with him and everybody else in our little fam. So it was just nice to feel disconnected for a little bit, but now we're back and we got some interesting topics today to discuss. If you guys caught the title, one of the main topics we're going to be chatting about is what everybody's been talking about right now, and it's the student loan forgiveness plan. There's been a couple of things that I think was worth just chatting about. So Goldman Sachs put in a student loan relief or just talked about it and gave their assessment on it. And I thought this was just really interesting. So if you guys didn't catch some of what was going on, so Biden is canceling $10,000 worth of student loans, $20,000 for Pell Grant recipients, and this is if you're making less than $250,000. So even if you're making $250,000, you're eligible for a $10,000 student loan forgiveness plan. And there's a couple of hoops you have to jump through, but it's pretty easy to get this taken care of. And I kind of wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this in general, and what you think about what's going on and how this could impact inflation. And this is kind of where I'm going with this and how this kind of ties into crypto and Bitcoin in particular. But, when we got all that stimulus, right, that obviously did, had such a huge impact on inflation, which is kind of leads into one of the reasons why Bitcoin is so attractive. And this is kind of, to me, another extension of that. When just my own thoughts on this is like student loan forgiveness is just kind of like another stimulus check in a sense, and how this might impact Bitcoin as well moving forward, and just the overall economy from a macro perspective too. I wanted to kind of get your guys' thoughts on this in general and where this could be headed. Is this Goldman Sachs basically said, even though there's a $10,000 forgiveness because of interest rates and everything else, it doesn't really impact your payments. They're going to be the same. Just not. So this is very little that's going to, it's not going to help you out a whole lot either.
And
Isn't this just another political opportunity to really? I mean, we're getting ready for midterms, right? So we have to keep that in the back of the context of a lot of the mainstream media plays, correct? And so obviously, traditionally, student loan debt has affected purchase power of citizens, debt power, the ability to move up in the economic ranks, right? And so there's a lot of political jargon that is thrown around this in regards to ensuring that people can be better off with less student loan. But I think the reality is, Brad, and I think we've all lived here long enough. I mean, isn't this more just political posturing than anything else? Is this actually going to happen? Because if this actually happens, I'm going to become a leftist real quick. Because if you're going to be giving me money for free, like, where's my payback? You know,
Right.
And now looking at it from a macroeconomic standpoint, if the stimulus checks triggered, well, we all know it triggered inflation. So everything rises, all the prices rise. Will this act also increase the price of education?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
in the long run, since this is to be expected, are we setting a precedent? I mean, from a personal standpoint, it's a great move, but okay, what does it really do to all of us in the long run is my question.
Yeah, I think it's a good question to ask. I mean, you think about it, and to kind of what Peter was talking about as well. There's definitely two sides of this argument. You have some people that are like, oh well, you know, those kids should have known better, and you know, they knew what they were getting themselves into. But some others argue that they actually didn't know what they were getting themselves into. I mean, imagine being 18 years old, right, and you don't know how the world works. You know, you weren't taught financial literacy when you were in, you know, grade school, because most of them don't. And so like, you just don't understand. So you kind of feel like you got duped in a sense. And so now you're like stuck with these loans that, you know, have crazy amounts of interest, and you have no idea how you're paying them off. So like, there is two sides of that coin, I think, that almost are valid arguments no matter how you're looking at it. And so I think that you bring up a good point too. It's just like, it could impact the cost of schooling. And in my opinion, I think that just completely forgiving them does create more problems as far as cost of school is concerned too.
How many of these loans that are getting paid back are actually defaulted already and not being paid on? So it's really not doing anything at all, that impact. And then on top of that, David, you know, it is a corrupt lending system for college. He had a great point on the chat here, and it's all about getting the money. People aren't educated. They're signing up for these. You get a brief 10-second when you sign up. They say, hey, you know, it'd be a good idea if you pay the interest each month while you're going to school. But these guys are going to school, so they don't have the money to pay that. So they're like, but you don't have to. So roll out, right? And now you've got, you know, 4 years of debt that's not had a dime paid towards the interest. And oh, by the way, you know, it's going to end up being 25% of your salary is going to student debt.
And actually, according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, only 7% are actually repaying their student debt, according to their recent data on 2020 quarter three. So it dropped. COVID had something to do with that, from 59% to 7%. So ain't nobody actually paying back their student debt anyway, because ain't nobody have that money to spend. And so people are continuing to defer this and defer it. But I would like to inject a deeper nuance into this discussion around any type of policy changes. At the end of the day, if you have bad habits, bad financial habits, having the government suddenly whisk away 50 grand worth of debt actually hasn't changed your life at all, right? And this is something that we have talked about on DCTV years ago, and many times, some of you guys who are here might remember. We talk about financial responsibility and financial literacy all the time. That's why we're here, right? We're here to help you guys learn about the financial world, whether it's traditional world. Now that we have Brad, who brings in that perspective, we obviously have the cryptocurrency world. And so forgiving student debt has no change in anyone's lives, because most of the, I'm going to make a generalization here, but guys, track with me on this model, is that 99% of the people who have student debt, if their student debt is wiped away, their behavior patterns at home are not going to change. They're still going to have bad spending habits, bad savings habits, bad investing habits, right? They're still financially illiterate. And so erasing debt actually doesn't change anybody's lives, and actually can sometimes make things worse, because now they don't have that saddled debt, and they might just continue to keep spending themselves back into debt, which often happens anyway. And so there needs to be a financial literacy. There needs to be financial education behind this. And so whenever I look at policies around stuff like this, it's like, so where's the educational aspect?
Right. Well, Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go a little deeper, because what Peter first said about it being a political ploy, I do agree that. I do think it's a political ploy. The only winnable political ploy that right now, especially the current administration, can actually change or do something about. And I'm going to build on top of what he just said about financial habits, because he's exactly right. But I look at it like this. I'm a very no excuses type mentality. Discipline, learning, education, everything Peter said is absolutely true. But I also think about this, because when people are put in unwinnable situations that aren't their fault, you have to take it into consideration. And this is what I'm talking about. This, I think, being the only argument that the current politics can win is, well, let's just forgive student debt and call it a win. And Jaime and Brad have both been looking at houses recently for either rent or buy. So please correct me if I'm out of line here, because you guys we're just doing it. But back, especially in the late 90s, when I was coming out of high school, about to go into college, you were looking at rents at apartments or an extra room in a house, a casita in the backyard, whatever it was. You could find rent for a room all day long at $500. It's pretty standard, average. Where I lived in Texas, it was a very easy thing to do. Average salary at that time, even though I wasn't in the working world, was approximately $30,000 US in that time. Okay, late 90s. Fast forward to today, and the average salary is now $50,000 US, but average rent is around $2,000. Good luck finding something anywhere for under $1,600.
Yeah.
So in the time period from the late 90s to today, our housing costs have quadrupled 4 times, but our median income hasn't even gone up twice. Yet we're asking millennials to figure it out. And so the better thing to do outside of forgiving student debt would be to figure out the housing crisis, or to figure out, to stimulate our economy for higher paying jobs so that we can afford these crazy housing prices. But the reason I say it's a good win is because the current, political structure isn't going to fix the economy so that we have higher paying jobs. We have more people not working than ever. They're certainly not going to fix the housing issue, because money printer went burr, like we just talked about, and inflation's off the chart. So now where can the current, politics stand? Well, we'll forgive student debt. That's the only thing I think they can do.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't want to make excuses for people. I am not about that. But in the same breath, I look at my future sister-in-law who just finished college, and she's super smart, going to be an accountant, but she's still got to stay at home, because what is she supposed to do with an entry-level job that's not even paying her $60,000, but rent is $2,000 everywhere she looks? I mean, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, and I think that's what makes the argument for both sides of this coin, right? Because you have people that either didn't go to college, maybe they went to trade school and they're doing very well for themselves, and they're like, well, I didn't get a handout, I didn't get a break, so why do these people deserve one? And it's kind of like, to me, I think it's not that they deserve one, but it's almost kind of, to me, it feels as if, and this doesn't matter what party line you're with, the government, I think, just really screwed over anybody looking to get higher education somewhere else, and I use that term loosely because I feel higher education, it can go into trades or what have you, but just specifically when it comes to academia, I think that the government really screwed them over, and I'm in that camp as well. Like you like I said at the top of this topic, it's you're 18 years old, you have no financial literacy because you were never taught that, unless you had really good parents that had gone through that before and had taught it to you, but you certainly didn't learn it in school. And so you have this government telling you, hey, you can go to school and you can pay this back whenever, and you just don't understand how the real world works. And
if you have this piece of paper, you're going to make X amount more than somebody who doesn't, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
To push, right? That was the thing when I was in high school. It was like, oh, cool. Yeah. You can go do a trade. You're not going to make as much as somebody in college. Well, guess what? Trades make more than a lot of people out of 5 years out of college. Right. It's been a major shift in that. And the promise never came to fruition.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, it's just, there's so many good points to be made, and I hate making excuses for anything, but you just got to look at the overall macros of this. I mean, I think what my parents bought our house in Richardson back in the early 80s, something like $60,000. Maybe it was a little more, right? So in 2022 dollars, it should be right under $300,000, right?
Yeah.
But you look at a lot of those houses today, their 2022 valuations are $1.5 to $2 million.
Yep.
And we expect the millennials right out of college that, like Brad said, they're 18 years old or 21 years old. They haven't figured things out yet. They're getting entry-level jobs. You expect them to be able to buy a house for those valuations?
No. Yeah. Right.
What are we doing? They're still making $60,000, $50,000 out of college. And just, it's just over exorbitant prices as well. College is ridiculous. You used to be able to work a part-time job and pay your tuition. Can't do it anymore. So, I mean, college is following the trend of everything else, of everything's getting too expensive.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's not even the cost of tuition really isn't that bad. It's
well, depending on where you go.
yeah, depending on where you go, obviously, but the cost for room and board is freaking insane, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what it
But
is.
we require you to live on campus for the first 2 years. We require that additional loan requirement for the first 2 years.
Yep. And this is where crypto comes in. I mean, this is the changing world, just as Greg talked about, where things are changing. It's just different now. It's not like it used to be. And cryptocurrency is going to change with the financial and monetary spending habits of these millennials coming up. That's why they're not looking at US dollar-based things anymore. Those in the US, they're looking at cryptocurrency. The exposure to cryptocurrency in millennials is just off the charts, like everything else, because why should they trust the dollar? What has the dollar done for them lately other than keep skyrocketing out of their reach, right? So where do they turn? Crypto. And this is why it's so important that especially people that have families or responsible for somebody coming up, we need to educate ourselves on crypto because our kids are going to do it. And we don't want them to be the first ones to make mistakes that with our financial knowledge, we can help them with, but we just don't understand crypto. So what? Now we don't communicate. And now lessons we learned in our lives with the dollar, we're going to take those away from our kids because we don't understand cryptocurrency. I don't think that's fair, right? So I think we do owe it. We owe our legacy, whether it's our niece, nephew, a good friend, whatever it is. We need to educate ourselves because otherwise the millennials coming up using crypto are going to make unnecessary and hard mistakes. They just don't have to.
Yeah. I just wanted to address
Donna,
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Donna, with your comment that
Yeah.
graduating students at 21, 22 don't need to buy a house. Completely agree. It's not buying a house. It's just
renting.
the cost of rent.
Renting.
Even
Yes.
Right.
is insane, right? How many roommates do you have to be able to afford the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just different.
You brought a good point, Tam, in terms of when I entered the crypto space or discovered it, ran across it, it actually is a forcing mechanism into understanding currency, into understanding value, into understanding inflation. And that's one of the benefits of getting involved with crypto is because now you start learning concepts like dollar cost averaging.
Yeah.
You can get into the really difficult areas of day trading and everything else. That's a mistake, but some of us have to go through it to learn through the war in the trenches.
Right.
It is a forcing mechanism to learn financial stability, financial growth, long-term investing. And I think that's part of what Gundy was mentioning of better education it's from high school or even lower school, where they can start understand you have to put this effort to gain this value. You want this, there's an effort or a commitment that comes before that effort. Credit cards have been one of the mechanisms to skew that effort by get on credit, pay for it later.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And that's how we get into these messes.
Yep. Agreed. Awesome conversation with that, guys, and I'm sure that we could go on forever on that one. But let's switch gears a little bit and get into the financial literacy part of our show today. One of the things that I wanted to bring up was Tesla. part of DCTV. Obviously, we want to talk about crypto as much as we can, but I think it's also important to talk about diversification. And this is kind of where I come in from the traditional finance part of things. Just talking about regular stocks. Obviously, it's important to be in Bitcoin, and we know how important cryptocurrency is and what it's going to be for the future. But I think it's also important to talk about diversification a little bit, and we can invest in both, right? And one of those is one of the big topics today is going to be Tesla related. Tesla stock has split. The stock's now did a I believe it was 3-for-1. If I'm not mistaken. I'm still on vacation mode, guys, so forgive me if I'm off on this one, but I think it was 3-to-1. And the stock is now trading at $300 a share versus the $891 that it closed at yesterday. It's now up 2% since then. And one of the questions that I wanted to address with you guys, not necessarily split related, but I will mention that since the splits, this is according to Barron's, you put in $100, you'd be up 80% from 2020 if you have put in $100 since Tesla's first split. So it's kind of crazy to see how many times they've already split just in a short period of time. But the stock obviously has a pretty huge valuation. The PE on this is over 40 times next year's earnings, so it's expensive. The premium is high. But my question I wanted to ask you guys, if you're building a long-term portfolio, we know that Bitcoin, I think we all can agree Bitcoin should be in there.
BlackRock thinks so.
Yeah.
Some
of the other institutions are also hopping on board there in that sense. But does Tesla belong? Is it a must-have in your long-term portfolio, and why or why not?
Yes, because of the changing environment. You maybe not necessarily Tesla, right? That's up for you to do your research and find, but something to do with EVs. The news yesterday that California is eliminating internal combustion engine cars as of 2035. It's the way of the future. So it's got nothing but brightness ahead of it.
Yes, they're going to have to replace that entire inventory by 2035 of existing devices.
That's crazy. It's crazy to think about.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now I think it said it could still be a hybrid, but it can't be a full ICE.
Correct.
Yeah. So just so we're clear, the market cap of Tesla is not changing, right? That the stock split does not affect the market cap, right? Yep. So basically how it works is if Tesla is trading at $900 a share, you have one share of Tesla that is worth $900. After the split occurs, you will now have 3 shares of Tesla worth $300 each. You still have $900 worth of Tesla. You just have it in 3 smaller valued stocks than one larger value stock. So Tesla still has to continue to profit and earn for these lowered stock valuations to rise again. I do agree with Greg that EVs are inevitable, whether it's voluntold or whether it's necessary or not. EVs are going to move forward. Starlink, I think that one is going to have some problems. I think Starlink is financially impossible at its current.
Starlink isn't attached to Tesla though, so
yeah. So okay, that's a good point then. That's a good point.
Another thing is that they lost government funding on the Starlink side.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I see it as a win. It's definitely, this split is an opportunity for sure.
And I would look at it. I mean, it literally every time I see Tesla, to me, it's like the crypto stock of the stock world.
It sure feels like that. It sure feels like that.
Of course, it's technology, but my personal concern, I love Tesla, by the way, but my personal concern of jumping in right now is that price to earnings ratio that you mentioned. It's pretty high. So although they are delivering on the numbers, to what point do we get? Am I buying the top? Am I buying Tesla bull run before, like everything can go up, everything can come down, but at what point am I buying? So in my case, I would dollar cost average into Tesla, but I would not grab a portion that I may need in the near future and dump it in there. That's
agreed.
A good point.
Yeah, just to clarify, it's at 71 times next year's earnings. That's what the premium is for Tesla. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I think the argument that some people try to make is that Tesla is growing at 50% year over year. And that's why you see some of these tech companies and the at the premiums that they're at is because the insane growth that they're going through. People view Tesla in many different facets. Tech, is it a tech company? Is it an auto manufacturer? Is it a utility company? Because let's not forget they also have solar in there. Elon's going to be talking about Neuralink, which is also associated with Tesla in the coming months. So there's so many things, and that's what makes it hard to actually evaluate Tesla. You have so many people that are super bullish on it because of all the things that they have coming down the pipeline and what's going to be happening in the future. And you have other people that have compartmentalized Tesla into just an automotive company. And so it's been really difficult to kind of figure out exactly what the valuation is, even after all this time. For me, I do think that Tesla is worth holding on to for the long term. But I think also, to your point, dollar cost averaging makes the most sense, because it's not that Tesla's speculative anymore. It's just that the extreme volatility that it experiences, because people still don't understand how to evaluate this company properly, makes the most sense. Looking at the bottoms and being like, okay, this may not be the bottom, but at least it's half the price of what it was before, or wherever it ends up being. So the risk reward becomes greater. So dollar cost averaging for a stock like this certainly makes the most sense. But I do feel like long term, this is going to be an absolute monster, just because they're so far ahead in technology with cars. If we just look at it from a manufacturing standpoint, from auto manufacturing, the technology is still 5 to 7 years ahead of everybody. Right. And I still like other EV companies, even from the legacy standpoint. Ford is something that I think could have the potential to actually outperform Tesla as far as the stock is concerned over the next year or two. So I think that if you're looking for an alternative, Ford's a good one, just because they have really gone all in on the EV front. So if we're just looking at it from EVs, then yes, I think that Ford could end up doing really well. But Tesla's got so many other things going on that I think it just adds to that valuation too. So 10 years out, I think even if you bought Tesla here, I think you'd be fine.
Yes, long term, I'm 100% with Tesla.
Yep. Yeah,
because
Agreed.
it's just not the technology itself; it's the process they follow to build these technologies.
And the growth is wild.
Yes, so they're a brilliant organization.
Yeah. So
long term.
So there you have it. That's I just kind of want to bring Tesla up, just because obviously I had the split today, and I'm sure a lot of people were asking, like, should I? The question I always get: should I buy before the split or after the split? And the answer is, it doesn't matter. Nothing has changed with the company. It's just that the window dressing looks a little bit different.
Absolutely.
Agreed. And that all wraps back to the market cap not changing. It doesn't matter.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So next order of business. Now, you guys caught the title of today's show. We are going to get into crypto mining, and actually wanted to kind of check in with our poll here so far. About 26 votes. Appreciate you guys participating, and hit that thumbs up if you're enjoying the stream so far as well. We got about 29 people in here, and I got to be honest, it's a revamped record for us. So we had about 30 plus people in here. So I appreciate you guys hanging in here. And so if you're enjoying the stream so far, show us some support and hit that thumbs up. Certainly would appreciate it. Looking at the poll, have you ever thought about mining crypto from home? The answers were yes, but it's too expensive. No, change my mind. And I already do, bitches. Beaches. It is. So it's actually pretty evenly split, 27, 38, and 35% respectively. So we're going to get into that topic in just a minute. But last but not least, as far as things that I wanted to chat about this morning, was about energy. So CNBC put out a piece here on energy, and specifically with Britain and Europe in general. Energy consultant Axelone estimates the price cap according to currently is at 1971 pounds a year, could climb to as high as 6,000 next April. That's tripling as Britain's cost of living crisis worsens. And I think that there's some validity to this. One thing that I've been trying to keep track of is the sanctions on Russia and Ukraine, that whole issue. The sanctions actually haven't been implemented yet from Europe I should say all of them haven't been implemented yet. And one big giant one's going to come into play or be executed in December. This is after we officially crossed the 6-month mark over the weekend since Russia has invaded Ukraine. And it's going to get, I think it's going to get continually worse. Obviously, we've seen kind of a little bit of a break in gas prices, at least here in the U.S. And but I don't think that's the end of the story. I don't think we just all of a sudden peaked out and now just things are going back to normal. I think that there's a lot to be concerned with here, and the rise in energy in Europe could easily trickle over to the U.S. And that's going to be something that I think we all should be concerned about.
Absolutely. And of course, this involves mining
Yes.
itself, because that's the key ingredient store of, or value going into the mining is energy. That's the largest cost going into it too.
Excellent point.
So yeah, we'll see this winter how it happens. But in Europe, it is not a pretty sight. I have a few friends already letting me know it's getting out of control. So now,
Oh, they've had a horrible summer as well with the heat waves. So
yes. And then you see that there was a post not too long ago where one of the highest searches on Google in Germany was firewood.
Yeah.
How to source firewood. So it's a sign of
Unbelievable.
things, yeah, what can happen. So
It's just a humbling reminder too. I mean, again, I live in Texas, and what was it, last winter, Texas very rarely sees snow outside of the Panhandle regions. And last winter, Snowmageddon, right? Our grid broke down. The homes didn't have power in the middle of winter for 5 days, and people were dying. People were very upset. And people up in Canada and northern states are like, well, you should have done better with your grid, this, that, and the other. The simple fact of the matter is we're not prepared for that type of infrastructure. We don't have snow blowers and this, that, and the other. It doesn't work where we live. And so, now when it's switched, because I also know quite a few people in Canada, and they're freaking out, talking about they're going to have to shut down the energy grid. It's too hot. We're not prepared for this type of heat, right? It's the exact same thing on two different sides of the thermometer in this case. So it's just humbling. Just again, going back to the first topic we had, just try to keep in mind the situations people are dealing with currently, because somewhere down the line, you're going to have the opposite issue to deal with. Somewhere you're just going to, right? Whether it's inflation, whether it's energy uses, whether it's monetary issues, housing. Just try to understand and be humble about it.
this is definitely a topic for another day, and whether or not you believe it or not, but climate change is going to affect our energy prices more than anybody can even remotely think about right now.
Yeah.
The entire grid was built for a specific climate type.
Yep.
And we're seeing that change. So it's a big driver for sure.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So getting into the topic you brought up in terms of
It's a perfect segue.
yes,
Perfect segue into what we're talking about today and how much it actually costs to mine crypto.
absolutely. It's what we're seeing. And the poll was, okay, Bitcoin, that's the grandpappy of it all.
Yeah.
Is it still, can we mine it at home versus at in a facility like ours where we're at? I don't know, Greg, if you want to dive into, let's say, the costs and what it entails, how much the power consumption is.
If you're looking at an industrial ASIC miner for Bitcoin right now, not top tier, but somewhere around there, you're looking at about 3 kW of power use every hour, right? So 3 kWh. Most residentials are somewhere around 10 to 12 cents. So if you're mining at home, that's 10 to 12 cents, or 30 to 40 cents an hour, maybe even 50 cents an hour to run that. So you've got to look and see if the return is worth that to you. There are other mining you can do, the altcoin mining. That's a lot more cost friendly.
Correct.
A lot lower usage. You're looking at 200 watts an hour for a miner versus a 3 kW, right? So for home mining, I think my personal opinion is leaning more towards altcoin mining, unless you've just got the ability and access
true.
to more power, right? That you can scale, because one miner is not gonna to make you rich, for sure, right? One ASIC is, you're gonna have it running for a long time, and you might, it's going to take at least 18 to 24 months to get a return on your investment versus some of these other ones that you can get in and get your ROI in 12 months.
And that's a great point, Greg, because at home we have specific budgets. And so think of it this way, an ASIC, a Bitcoin miner, you have to think of feeding the machine. Electricity is the food you will provide for later profit. So if you want to bring in a sumo wrestler into your pantry, you'll soon be out of food and house because of the amount of carry or the runway you need to be able to produce the Bitcoins. The altcoins, and for example, like we're targeting, that's where the invitation we have with our entire community. And I know there's a few miners in here that are doing home mining also, like Crypto Cowboy and a few others I've seen in the chat. The question is, okay, how much can I afford to pay for my electricity costs to mine? And bull runs are almost like every 4 years. We're in the midst of a bear market, so the time to mine at home at a cost-effective way is now. You should start mining now. And then how do you decide what coin to mine? And we'll drop it in the links, and join us on Discord. At the very top, the first post we have on our chat is join our Discord. In there, we have a mining channel. Greg and I and the team, we're doing an R&D experiment in mining, and we're going to share it with everyone on how to do this. Of course, we're doing the industrial. Well, we actually chose a home to do this experiment in. And we've chosen, for now, at this first one, is the Kadena chain. But in there, we've seen Flux mentioned as good profitable mining. We've seen Raven Coin and a few others. So to find out, there's a link which is called whattomine.com. And you can go in there and take a look at it. You go to the miners tab, and then once you go into the miners tab, you can put in what you're paying in electricity costs. You'll do submit, and it'll give you a nice list of miners that are profitable at your current kilowatt hour price. And join us in that Discord, and we can start discussing. So our mission with Greg and the team is do these experiments, document it. What are the promises? What are the expectations? Actually execute on it, and then post infographics and make it as easy as possible for people to do mining at home, because it is a form of passive income that you can do that's affordable to do. And what are you doing? It's not that you're speculating. The actual function your mining is doing is proof of work. The proof of work is the mechanism to secure the blockchain you're choosing to mine. So you're actually performing a function. So you're literally hiring a little employee. You're going to feed electricity instead of your pantry to do some work for you and earn income for you. So please join us in Discord, and we'll go. Go ahead.
This is cool because it can really get your creative juices flowing just past mining. Obviously, if you're interested in mining, then get the miner and understand the software and what to do if something breaks or something changes and you need to adjust hash rates to maximize your outputs or your profits. By all means, do that. But to offset a lot of the energy stuff that we're talking about, let's get doubly creative. Let's figure out what to do with all the damn heat that these things throw out. And I saw Chomsky already. He mentioned something that his garage and living room are hot as hell right now because of his miners, which understood. But how great is that going to be for him in the wintertime? So he can now offset his energy bill when it comes to his heating costs, especially if he has a central gas heater that is very expensive to run in the wintertime, right?
Yep.
Maybe you're in an area that is normally colder, and not only because you have multiple miners do you heat your house, but maybe now you heat a greenhouse. And now you can year-round farm in a greenhouse that's warm, and now you're producing extra income because you're selling these nice fresh fruits and vegetables, right? You see these cool stories everywhere, this chance to be really creative, this chance to double income. Not only am I mining crypto, but the heat that it puts off also allows me to do XYZ. I think those stories, that what people are doing with the heat, those are fascinating to me. You see people that are heating their pools, heating their saunas to 110
Yes.
degrees,
Holy
100%, yeah, 100% through ASIC off-put heat, right? So it's energy free in the terms of what is heating this secondary thing past the ASIC. Obviously, you need power to the ASIC, but the heat the ASIC throws out, that is free energy to be used elsewhere. I've seen greenhouses, I've seen pools, I've seen your
Parking
normal
lots.
houses.
Parking
Yeah,
lots
and-
where they run the
yeah,
water
so
underneath to
If
keep
you
it
can
free
come
of ice.
up,
That is insane.
Right.
I've never ever heard of
yeah,
that.
so
But
if
that-
you can come up with
that's
a
pretty
way
mind-blowing.
to, yeah, to make even passive income, now you could be winning even despite the energy needed to power the ASIC itself. So I'm very
We're going to be
interested in
using
that.
the heat from the ASICs at our facility to heat the office administration spaces throughout the winter. That is
There you go.
the number one goal.
Absolutely.
Is awesome.
Yeah, and Chomsky is actually mining ETH as much right before the merge, and it's because it's paying really good rewards right before that merge. So well played, Chomsky. Well played. But I'm curious if you're still on the chat. What are you gonna retask your miners to once the merge occurs? I'm just curious about that. If you're not
Yep.
comfortable answering here, join us on Discord, and we'd love to hear from you.
Awesome stuff.
And
This is
some of the stuff on the R&D that you're going to see is we're going to get ways to make it more efficient, packages that make it even more attractive down the road. So definitely hit us up there, and we look forward to presenting some stuff over the next few months that I think is going to knock your socks off.
Yes. Imagine this, guys. Mining with only solar and using your utility as a backup, as a failover. That's one of the things we're working on.
completely
So
off
if
the
you-
grid.
yeah, if you mine with solar and then you also exchange the heat produced to have something else that gives you money, that is double passive income, double dipping in the best of ways, and all through renewables with no carbon footprint. That is amazing. What that's so exciting. It's so exciting, man. So like, it's funny because I am of the mindset that I don't mine. I would rather just take the money I would have otherwise used to mine and buy the coins. That's what I would do. I would buy Bitcoin. I would put them in a cold wallet and I would leave it there. And now I don't have to deal with power. I don't have to deal with breakage. I don't have to deal with hash rates. I don't have to deal with any of that, right? But these secondary uses of the heat for somebody like me, I'm a huge vegetable gardener. Don't even play when it comes to tomatoes. I already got you. I'm gonna out tomato you in a heartbeat. But I'm a huge vegetable gardener. So I end up moving out of Texas and into colder climates. This alone might bring me into mining. Like, of course, I want more of the Bizity beet, right? But I also want my literal green beans, and I want my cucumbers, and I want all my jalapenos, especially. Like, I want all these things that might make me say, well, this is how I got into mining.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's some incredible stuff. I like that was the first time I've ever heard anything as far as use cases are concerned with the heat that it puts off. That's really cool. So, let us know what you guys think if you're watching this at a later time in the comments about today's show. About student loans, about Tesla and investing in that, and about mining in Bitcoin. Give us your thoughts. Let us know in the comments, and please don't forget to check us out in our free Discord as well. The link is in the chat there, as you can see. It's been a great show. It's been a great day back, lady and gents.
Yes. There is one thing before we sign off.
What's up?
Peter covered it last night on his live stream of the signs of the crypto adoption in the world. And one of the signs, point number 2 that he made, is nation states joining and
Yes.
launching efforts for framework legislation in support of crypto. And one of them mentioned is the Catawba Nation doing it locally in our area. We're going to have the CEO of that effort, of the DEZ, with us tomorrow speaking, and we're going to interview him. So if you're thinking of what the possibilities are, or how can anyone benefit from this link to crypto, please join us tomorrow. And we're going to have an amazing conversation with Joseph McKinney.
Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to that. It'll be
Awesome,
good.
guys. So make sure that you're tuning in tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss that at 9 a.m. Eastern time. We'll be live 9 to 10. Really looking forward to that, along with whatever else might come up, and we will chat about it. If you're seeing it in the headlines, you're going to hear about it here. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day.